Wow, so this is great. The guy has just given me some photographs from this book that I've been trying to get. Well, I haven't been trying for long because I've only just found out about it. But this book was mentioned in a Wikipedia piece, I think it was, Huddersfield's history. And in that citing, there's some misinformation, there's a few misspellings of the author and a few other details. So this is the book. That is the binding of it. And this is the cover of it. And it is Huddersfield, its history and natural history. Chas C.P. Hobkirk. Funny that he's got a name Kirk, and there's Kirk Eaton and Kirk Burton in the area of which we're going to be discussing. He writes the book in a sort of first-person narrative, but also as if he is with the reader, taking the reader along with him. So it's kind of like speaking in first person, as in like, we're going to go for a walk down here, and he kind of dictates it like that. And this is apparently this is first edition and apparently a personal copy, so it might be worth a lot more than £85. On Secretary of the Huddersfield Literary and Scientific Society, if that still exists or not, illustrated with engravings on wood. Not many of them around anymore. Ward and Lock, 158 Flint Street, Huddersfield, B. Brown Market Place Corner. Well, Flint Street is now where they actually have the council highways headquarters, two of which I do not give much repute, not to any of the planning or highways departments of any council currently, because I investigated them all and I believe them to be deeply corrupted through contractors, mainly money and contracting and government planning. But that's another story. So this actual book, wow. So what else has he got here? I've just got this author's copy, £35. Apparently the author's proof copy, numerous okay, can't quite read that, but 30 for 35. Well, the first edition is meant to be going for about £70-80 now. There was one for around £35, but that was a second edition. If this is the author's copy, I don't know how much that's worth. So we've got those 2 pages that I'm after. It mentions this Roundwood place on both these pages, which I'm going to go to in a minute. But he has what's this as well? I wanted to put this on. Corrigenda. Page 56, line 11-4, portion, red portion specific of the factory. So actually, what I wanted to say, that's one thing I forgot to do actually, and I'm going to upload this onto the internet. So I just wanted to, what I actually did is I went to find what it actually means, this corrigenda, in the dictionary. Right, corrigendum or corrigendum. So it means a thing to be corrected, typically an error in a printed book. So something in a book which you want to change or supposedly put right that was supposedly wrong, or at least you want it to be made other than what is there. I find that significant to this book existing and the actual reference to the terms of what is held in this book, to be honest, and the knowledge. In a way, I'm suspicious about Tolkien being sent up to university, as a professor to Leeds, and then he was really interested in sniffing around the Yorkshire dialect for specifically old sayings and words that might contain knowledge or information, people knowing about things, or any remnants of knowledge in the language of the local area and dialect, possibly retained from Celtic Welsh or the Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, which, was used in our area, which they're using in the north, things like that, obviously, like when the word connaught is like, it's like a cone, conical, and naught is a zero. And if you think of, like the river, we've got the River Colne, but we pronounce it Colne, Colne, but it's Colne, and I mean, I've done loads of photos and stuff on this, but you see, helmet is the helmet. Now the helmet is conical shaped. The Celtic helmet is conical shaped, which was from pre-Roman times. That's conical shaped, and the Liberty caps are conical shaped. They are. It's an extended naught. It extends from the zero. It projects outwards, which is interesting because that's when you start thinking about the word brigante is a projection or beam or even mast, then that's what a cone is. The longer and longer and longer you get the cone from the naught, it is the more the mast. And you think of from Marsden all the way down to Leeds Road, the river Colne joins onto the Calder at Big House. You see, I wasn't too familiar with the Colne when I was little because I was in Murfield, so we always had the Calder, you see, and I've always worked at the side of the river. Well, I've driven around the country all my life as well, but when we were back at base, we were next to the river. But in school, we were always taught the Calder because I went at school in Home Firth, so I didn't know it as the Colne. I didn't really think about it too much. It's quite amusing at this stage, looking at this now and thinking of compo, like connaught, connaught, and then you've got the whole, like, the names like O'Leary and O'Neill and O'Kelly and all that. In compo, I think Last in the Summer Wine, apparently, was it something like 1973 or 1974 it was invented, which Coronation Street came maybe 6 years. I think Coronation Street was 6 years before Last in the Summer Wine, but I think Last in the Summer Wine might have been just before Kirklees Council were formed. I think, wasn't Kirklees Council 74, and Last in the Summer Wine were just before it, but it was on April Fool's Day. You've got this whole compo thing going on. Now, when we get into this book, it's going to be talking about the War of the Roses and the Civil War and things like that. I just want to note now that looking at Corrigendum, it makes me, you can't help but think of Coronation Street, can you? Corrie. Well, they've abbreviated it to Corrie, which is Coronation, you refer to it as Corrie, Coronation Street. So that's interesting. And the fact that Corrigendum is, they're wanting to either change something that's written down or, it makes you wonder, like we're looking at all these maps now and there's like Huddersfield, there's lots of different spellings, then it's Morden, then it's Marsden, then it's Morden, and then it's Marsden, there's amendments are being made and professors are being sent up from Oxford to find out what we're talking about. And these professors write very significant books, fantasy books that are worldwide renowned, and even they make films about dark towers next to mountains with eyes on them, and we happen to have dark towers next to mountains, and Tolkien happens to be connected to those by being in the area and studying his language. You know, it's there's something there. You can't say, oh, you're just making it up and making loose associations. There's more than the odd loose association. Now we've got these old maps where it's, you know, oh, look, here's a map of Huddersfield. Here we go. West Riding of Yorkshire. Oh, Mar. The Celtic word for riding, the first bit of it is Mar. That's interesting. And Marsden's right over the never eat shredded wheat, the west side, right over the west side of our county before you go into Lancashire. So that even has association with riding, the name West Riding. And then, you know, the letter D just happens to be perfectly over this site that we've got here. That happens then at some point gets a letter D street implanted on top of it. Around the time that Emlyn Mast built, likely, well, we know Emlyn Mast was 71. So the mast came before Kirklees Council. I need to find out when that Woodedge Avenue was built. I've put a Freedom of Information request in for it because I think it's, I would do it if it was 65, 66, 69, where it's 72, 75. Was it before? You see, I'm looking at the Kirklees Council planning records. The only mention, the first mention of Woodedge is somebody puts a planning application in to change or adapt something of an existing dwelling, and that's 87. But then there's a load of strange newspaper reports come up for there was a merger on top of there, which if they'd never built houses on, there likely probably wouldn't have been. And there was also one up, I remember it, that Rose and Crown as well. And outside that Rose and Crown pub, there didn't used to be a railing. At some point, they put a railing on, probably around, give or take, a few years, around 1970. And on that railing, the person who designed it and implanted that railing had made a square box around it. I don't know if it was before or after 1930 when the square police boxes were built. And the square is blocked off so you can't get onto it by a railing. I actually ended up getting JP Wild to leave that on, actually, because they've just they've just redone the co-op. And in the centre of that square railing, the tile flag is on a slope, a slant, like the embankment of that mound, which is just down the road, which is significant because it's blocked off with trees. You can't get on there because of trees. So somebody's made a really steep slope flag, unusual thing to build, with a metal railing around it. You can't get on it, but you can get onto the top platform and into the pub to get drunk. And somebody were murdered in there, and somebody were murdered on top of the hill. Very strange, you know. In fact, someone passed away, one of our neighbours passed away a few years ago, and that led to the woman selling the house, beautiful bungalow with kind of ponds in the garden and stuff, and then the guy next door moved house and sold up, then they sold the land to developers, and then they built some horrible houses next to us, which are really noisy now, and not very... it's called Pond Lane, and it used to look like it was called Pond Lane by lots of bungalows with kind of nice gardens and trees and things like that. The word Pond Lane, it fit the description. Now it's not recognisable to have been called Pond Lane. It's just, you know, the person who goes to assess planning and do a draft and write-up is not very imaginative, or they're lacking vision. They're lacking in the imagination of a proficient and adequate assessment of what they've actually got there and what they're going to be allowed to build in the council voting chamber, in my opinion. But then again, look what they've done to Huddersfield and are now still doing to Huddersfield. There are, you know, and when you meet these people, there are, you know, these are, when you even speak to them normally on Messenger and have a normal conversation and challenge them on something, they just block you. Do you want someone on the council elected who doesn't want to have a normal conversation with you? Just normal, you know, right, well, let's talk about this, right? And they only seem to want to talk for, there's 500 people who vote them in, right? They only want to talk to those 500 people who they're going to get the votes from next time to keep him in the council. Everyone else who didn't vote for him or voted against him, they don't care about. And they're not interested in what they want. As long as there's, keep the 500 happy, keep them getting voted in, and then they're in the council making decisions for everyone. That's what it seems to be to me like. And I have been around I knocked on the door of every single house in Kirkburton. Every single house in Kirkburton, I went to every house and I handed out flyers for my own petition that was legitimately drafted. And then people didn't have very good... I spoke to them in person. I never had an argument with one person. I spoke to them. They completely understood what I meant and what I was saying to them. And I was getting a lot of stories about councillors who are not very competent. People not happy about it. But that's that. I didn't really want to go into that, to be honest. I wanted to talk about this book, but that's what happens anyway. Corrie gender. Corrie's agenda. It's like Corrie's agenda, isn't it? Coronation Street's agenda. Corrie's agenda. What is Corrie's agenda? Ask Emmerdale. Ask Seth Armstrong. What's Corrie's agenda? ITV. Anyway, 16 minutes and 20. I don't even know who wants to listen to me for 16 minutes and 20 because I've ended up talking about everything except what I wanted to talk about. That's what you get for being left-handed. So, we'll start with this bit because this is the bit that this guy's given us. And I aren't going to read that because I cannot read the handwriting. If somebody wants to translate that, I know that says Ramsden there in the middle. Ramsden of Byram. I can make out a few words in it. Pleased to say, the persons. No. Oh, that says Almondbury. By. I need someone to translate that. So, 17 minutes 24 seconds in, and here is some information. We're going to be talking about this is about the general history of the estates at Huddersfield and some issues to do with those estates. It's all issues in it. At the end of the day, it's in a book. You can buy it. Somebody published it. Your kids can buy it if they want to buy it and read it. If they've got 35 quid spare or 85 quid spare, can pick up this in the school library probably. So it's all arguments and look, bloodshed. It says bloodshed there. Became a scene of bloodshed. It could be in the school library. This. I'll just check it, see if it's got an age. I don't think this book has got an age limit on it, but possibly if you type that in, if you were on Facebook in the Castle Hill group and you typed, because I like Huddersfield then and now because it's kind of like it's kind of like realistic group to normal people. Just like if you obviously don't want to go overboard too much, but I believe that it's a legitimate and honest place where you can be human with normal people. But if you went into some groups and like even put this in a reply, if you put like the whole of the district in this neighbourhood again becomes a scene of bloodshed and raping. But although we find records of battles fought online in groups, Wakefield, Pontefract, Leeds, and other places, little not to mention. You can't. Some people won't even. You can't say that. Well, it's in this book and it's in school library. So if your kids brings it home. Anyway, that was meant to be comedy. In the 33rd Henry VIII, 1541, there was a suit between W.M. Ramsden. Is that William? I thought it was John William Ramsden. Or is that the guy before him? No, because that's later. This is earlier. This is 1541. 1541 is before that. I mean, that's before. Is that before Civil War? I think that's way before Civil War, isn't it? and then it's well before 1688. That's before that pub in Almondbury were built anyway. 1541. So this is not John William Ramsden, the Liberal, who we know. This is his ancestor, isn't it? So even going back before the Civil War, between Ramsden plaintiff and Thomas Hay and John Armitage. Now, I thought it was the whole Armitage legacy, the whole Armitage estate is to do with where Robin Hood's buried, isn't it? That's part of Armitage estate there. And you've got Armitage's Garden Centre and all that. So that's that camp. But on here it's spelled Harmitage, Harmytage, Harmitage. But these are all landowners, aren't they? Ramsden's a landowner, Thomas Hay, Armitage. The matter in dispute being a claim of soot, and soak to the what? Soot and soak. What does that mean? Sort. I think it means to seek to the King's Watermill. The King's, was it just called King's Watermill, or did it belong to the King? Corn Mill and Fulling Mill in Huddersfield, Milnes, Colne, Almondsbury. I was wondering if it was at the old corn mill going out towards Big House, but I don't think it is if it's in Almondsbury. Now, how he spells it here is Almondsbury. Almondsbury. It's not Almondsbury, and it's not got a D in it either. Almondsbury. It's Almondsbury. I still think it's related to arms and giving arms. How long it continued in the Burton family is not known, but by indenture bearing date the 12th of June 1573, 40, 56, 30 years, arguments over a claim to mill. John Byrom, is that the family to do with the Byrom Arcade and all that? Aren't they landowners as well? Esquire sold the manor of Huddersfield to Sir Gilbert Gerard. What was in the manor of Huddersfield? When the present family became seized of the manor, we are not informed. But it is certain that John Ramsden, Esquire, of Byrom Hall, all right, Sir Byrom, it's to do with Ramsden, had a grant of a market at Huddersfield by patent, dated the 1st of November, 1670. Why am I thinking of Doctor Who when I did that then? I was just reading it out and around 1670. It's like when on the new series when she gets out of that phone box in that old village and there's that old couple that pick the phone up to ring the police and she sniffs his jacket or something and she goes, she's like thinking of the date. In the latest series, what's on now, I think it's the one, the Angels, Village of Angels, whatever. I think it was written by the woman who does Emmerdale Farm, actually, I know that. So he goes 1670. 23rd, Charles II. But we must return to dates. During the Wars of the Roses, the whole of the district in this neighbourhood, he's decided to write it so when it gets to neighbourhood, then he starts a new line with hood. Again became the scene of bloodshed and rapine. Did it? 1670, 1688, 78 years. So is that coming into Glorious Revolution then, or? I don't know. I didn't think it was part of Glorious Revolution up here. But we must return to the dates. During the Wars of the Roses, well, that were a lot earlier, wasn't it? The whole of the district of this neighbourhood again became the scene of bloodshed and rapine, but although we find records of battles fought at Wakefield, Pontefract, Leeds, and other places, little or no mention is made of the district with which we are more particularly concerned, as if it has been omitted or left out. Again, in the time of Charles and Cromwell, was the scourge of war visited upon Yorkshire. The principal manufacturing towns in the district sided with the parliamentarians, not with the crown. Well, this is because this is now, this is to do with Ramsden, isn't it? Because they sided with Parliament. They were when Cromwell defeated the crown and became Lord Protector, he sided with the Parliament. So later on, he's not going to be very popular because of his family connections. Bradford seems to have been a most, and then there's just some notations here. Duke is Lancastrian, blah 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 blah. So this is what we say. This is when I was reading about John William Ramsden, obviously the later Ramsden, in connection with the Victoria Tower being built, the Jubilee Tower. So he's not popular with the crown because this guy here is family earlier had sided with the parliamentarians, and he actually, I think, at a later stage, once it went back to royal rule, I think he might have spent some time in Tower London, from what I've read. This could be to do with this dispute over the King's Mill, but I don't know if that was just the name of the mill, or was it? It looks like it might have been Hale had it or someone. But it looks like that there was some dispute over the watermill. So what happens is, they're wanting to put that tower, Jubilee Tower, on, and there's a story to that I've covered in some videos on the petition. If you want to look through them all, if you can put it with me. My style of presentation, which really goes into all that to do with the Mountbattens and a baton-shaped tower being put at the Heights of Abraham, which is not that high up at all because it's low down. They built this tower low down in the Heights of Abraham in Derbyshire, which is kind of like a deep valley. It's like a ravine with villages in it, and it's kind of like very mountainous edges to it, but it's because it's quite low down in the valley, and they've got cable cars now, but they wouldn't have done back then. And they built a baton-shaped tower, did that tower company who were trying to raise money, and then the next project was the Victoria Tower, and they had a competition, didn't they, to design it, and Ramsden weren't too keen on it, because obviously if it's a Jubilee Tower, he and his family traditionally were siding with the parliamentarians historically. He's liberal, isn't he? He's not a Tory, he's not a Conservative. But he's not a Whig. The Whigs went with the Roundheads, but liberals still, it's like another party, isn't it? Liberal is meant to be really, it's why you call Liberty Caps liberal, because it's meant to be the entire, the Liberals are meant to be, really, it's meant to be peace and love and understanding and kind of agreeable. Being liberal is meant to be about, putting up with it, tolerating tolerance, and being liberal is meant to be about tolerating things, but obviously not just letting people do what they want. That's why people don't vote for liberals, because they kind of think that, you don't want people to walk all over you. But it's not about that. It's about being open to communication and listening to people and having dialogue and understanding. It's about, it's about being open and fair. you know, and sometimes it's not good to be too liberal because, you know, for example, I was at the bus stop today at Mould Green waiting on the corner, and a young chap lad turned up looking for a bus, and he just started spitting on the floor everywhere, and I kind of thought it was a bit gross, but I just stood there, right? Now, some people might say something to him, some people might not. I didn't want to start a fight with him. I thought it was pretty gross, and then a guy walked past and looked at him funny, and then he was saying to this old guy who walked past, you know, who's kind of like going, hey, you know, what are you looking at, or whatever. Now, I just kind of like he asked me about buses, and I just answered him normally, and then, you know, I was polite to him, but in my mind I thought, you know, I kind of wish he wouldn't be spitting everywhere. But I didn't say, I didn't tell him to stop spitting or anything. And then when the bus pulled up, I don't really have any trouble with anyone, to be honest. As a rule, normally, I don't really get that much trouble, but I just happened to be there, and then he was actually all right with me. And then, apart from, I wasn't too happy with him spitting on the floor everywhere. And then his mate got off the bus, and I had my ticket in my hand, and he's like, mate, like, kind of like gave me a knuckle thing on the knuckles, like, but you know, like when like young people greet each other, they do it, but I wasn't expecting it, so I was kind of like, but I didn't say and then I got on the bus. So, you know, someone who was, you know, if it was Jacob Rees-Mogg, for example, he might have said, "No there, young man, you know, do you mind with your manners? Spitting's a disgusting habit, you know, take your disgusting habits away with you. You could be spreading coronavirus around the streets," you know, whatever. You know, he'd challenge him, you know, and he might have been, you know, he might have ended up turning it into a mouthing off match, and then, you know, you don't know what's going to happen, you know. You know, he might have told him to F off or whatever, or, you know, start swearing at him, you know. But, you know, then you're heading into, you know, is there going to be is it worth having an incident? This is when you get into police, you know, whether, you know, and this is really, that sort of thing is really what Facebook are attempting to eradicate. All these new ridiculous rules with the police, you know, all these signs they've got on the buses. Oh, if something don't feel right, you know, report it to the police, and this and that. You know, the slightest thing that someone says wrong on Facebook they don't like, just block. But that's not religious, even with like Christian faith of forgiveness and stuff like that. It's just complete. It's like Scientology, really. It's like, if you don't exactly do what I like and do what I say, then I don't want you know, to acknowledge you existing. And that's when people going around doing that, you know, building. I mean, you could say, you know, if you wanted to, you know, when people just go around banging kids out all the time, it's like doof 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 doof, like non-stopping, just like. It's almost like, I kind of really had a vision when that lad was just spitting everywhere, spit. I couldn't help but imagine in my head all the builders and just going, just like spitting babies out everywhere, you know, like that, and then just banging houses up all around us, blocking us in, you know. Now, this is why people don't really vote for Liberals, because they think that people who are Liberal just let people walk all over them and do what they want. Oh, just building houses everywhere, right? But the thing is, that's what the Tories are trying to do now, take your rights away, so you haven't got the right to object. They're kind of forcing everyone to be Liberal. But who's stopping the Tories from doing it? Labour aren't, because Labour are the ones who are doing it. So what party is going to be the party who's going to be like Jacob Rees-Mogg in that situation and say, "Go on there, boy, with your spitting out children everywhere and spreading, you know, urban sprawl," you know, but the Tories are doing that. The Tories are wanting to carry on doing urban sprawl, but so are Labour, you know, but they're not wanting to be understanding and sit down and talk about it and be agreeable and come to an amicable understanding and say, well, you know, talk about, you know, care about your view and you know, your visual access and stuff like that, and your town getting ruined. They don't want to talk about it, you know. This is the thing. This is what Russell Brand's on all about now. There are no parties who really represent his interests. People won't vote for Liberals because they think they're all soft. And people are starting to not want to vote for Tories now because they're just taking over the place. But what are Labour doing? It's almost like Labour are helping them. because Labour really want to be rich and have loads of money and be the Tories now, you know, and they want everyone to be like the Tories and buy all their stuff, and then Labour's mission is complete, you know, once everyone has become Tories, then, you know, Labour's mission, it's almost like, you know, Labour's mission to become Tory is almost complete now, you know what I mean? That was the mission. That was Labour's mission, was, you know, to be like the Tories. And I think, like, Keir Starmer now needs to realise that, you know, everyone's got all, you know, the material things. You know, they've got them the McDonald's, they've got them the cinema, they've got them the donuts, they've got them the cakes, you know, they've got them the buns, they've got them the Lanzarote holidays, the beef, Bora Bora, you know, they've got the wallpaper. You know, they've got all the things that they want. They can, you know, a lot of people, you know, now want a bigger house because they can't fit all the things that they've got in them. So Labour has now succeeded, and what they're doing now is they've kind of like become Tory now, and they don't want to be able to stop anyone from changing that, you know. Whereas at some point, Labour was still proud of sort of being a working class, not being a Tory class, but they were still going into work and making all the Tories things for them, you know? And the thing with Liberals is, you know, Labour people might not like Liberals because Labour, like, you know, we want to have more workers' rights and we want to be paid better and, you know, very stern and strong-minded. But, you know, to do what? To end up being Tory. So it's kind of, it's a bit of a lost political party. Ramsden was a Liberal. Our area, really, all the sites in our area is about Liberal, because that's what it represents. That's what our area is. That's what our ancient sites are. You know, it's a religious area. And unfortunately, at some point, you might have thought, well, you know, maybe it wasn't good to be Liberal because we got beaten. You know, where did being Liberal get us? You know, if the Celtic religion was more of a liberal religion, then and in civilization, where did it get us? We got beaten. Well, the thing with the Romans is this: is there were a lot more of a political things going on, and they ended up specialising in war and fighting. Rome got sacked plenty of times, but the thing is, there was this period where they managed to get, I think they'd sold them on the products, they got them into the wines and the grapes and all the produce, and they got them getting people addicted to the produce, and people therefore wanted the material goods, and so they'd sold them on the material goods like the general public kind of wanted it, so they were kind of a bit open to that culture, and they'd been doing a lot of fighting and strategic planning down in the Mediterranean, so they were specialising in war, and then they got an army, and then they armed themselves, and they got the materials and minerals from all of Europe, and they made the shields, and they trained the army up, and they got the weapons and everything, and they were able to take over Gaul using strategic military force and weapons, which was really technology. Now you say, well, does that mean they were more superior mentally, or were they, you know, more advanced than us? They made an invention, and they used that invention to beat us. It doesn't mean to say that they were any better at maths or the sciences or philosophy or whatever, and we were more open to letting them come in because we were more liberal. The Germans, the German, they didn't beat Germany because they were fierce, kind of more crazy fighters, and they weren't open to accepting them as much as liberals. So they were fighting fiercely, and they had this more. We were known for this skirmish fighting style with the chariots and hit and run, sort of more scouting and kind of like smaller units, and we just weren't outfitted for that. But whereas the Germans had a little bit more frenzy to them. Now, The thing is that so it was a technology. Now the thing is, right? You could compare it to nowadays. Why are we losing and not beating the Conservatives? Is this mobile phone that I'm using in my hand? Technology. They've got inventions that they can use, which is almost like, she kind of says it like in Doctor Who in Series 13, because I'm going to need a pointy stick. It's almost like saying, right, if you're walking through a forest and if you've got a staff, you've got an advantage over other people who don't have a long staff, you know? Or if you're walking through it's like having a gun, basically. If you've got, if you're walking through the jungle and you've got, an automatic weapon, then you're gonna be able to, lions and tigers. If you encounter any wild animals, then you're gonna be able to beat them because you got an automatic weapon and ammunition, right? That's it. It's just a mechanical device, right? Now, if you didn't have that, you're gonna be a lot less chance. If there are wild animals, you're going to have to use other initiative and, faculties, aren't you? Now, at the moment, the Tories have got money, they've got all the computers and devices, and they've got the media, advertising boards, they can influence people's psychology, they've got psychologists, they've got, superior technology. Now, that doesn't mean that to say that the computer geek, right, if you want to imagine him as Q, in the new James Bond, right? Without his computer, right? If he just stands there, right? He's like a, geeky wimp guy or whatever. Or, maybe that's a little bit too sort of biased, but in theory, right? If you've just got the average person and then the computer guy without his computer, right? He's not guaranteed to win a fight, is he? Right? But with his computer, then if you're on the bus, they can hack into the bus, and then you can shut the bus's engine off. Then or if he can any other things he can do with his computer, then he can intervene and do that. So it's his technology. So it's like is he any more clever in other things? Well, he's got the thing is, right. I think that if you look at some of those photographs from the 1800s, if you look at some of those photographs from the 1800s with the horse and carts, you've got all this modern town centre, Huddersfield town centre, but there's no cars there, there's no vehicles. There's just, all the men sat on the horse and cart. It's not that long ago. Now, if you met those people now, I don't think that there's going to be that much general difference in intelligence, except for the machines. If you get a human ain't going to know anything about computers or machines unless you're taught about it and you're told about it. If you appeared in the 1800s now with those horses and carts, right, and all those, whatever they had then, you could quite easily say to one of the guys, right, oh yeah, this is, a car. And then you could, oh wow, and he might be a little bit surprised, but then when you get into it and then you explain it to him and then he'll understand it, and then you can, turn the engine on and how to drive it, and then you could even explain to him the engine, and then he learns it. It's not like he can't do it. So it's a stockpiled knowledge. And the thing with humans is they can, have that knowledge put on. It's actually the knowledge, the collection of knowledge itself, So, but to say, if you go back to, when we got invaded or whatever, were we any better or worse? I think there was a lot of bad press and bad writing in those Gaelic wars. I don't think that we were this warlike, horrible, bloody culture whatsoever. Knowing who I am as a person and what I was like as a 4-year-old kid and growing up, right? Loving, caring, considerate, imaginative and thoughtful, right? Yes, you have arguments with, you even have arguments with your family and you shout, like, when they say the Irish swear, but this is what you end up, it blows over, and then that's what the wars of the clans were really on a larger scale. And then even with your family, you have arguments and it can get, but then, then there's forgiveness and then you can make up afterwards. That's what religion comes from, forgiveness. Now, as for all this bloody stuff with all the sacrifices and all that, I think they don't really understand what it is. There's no one in this world, right, who ends up eating. If you live in a cold climate like this, they used to have a lot of robes and cloth, particularly the Greeks and Romans, because it was a lot warmer there. We wore a lot more animal skins, and if you're going to wear animal skins, particularly in the winter when it's cold, you're going to skin a lot of animals, and there's going to be a lot of blood and guts hung around, your roundhouses and other places. And I'm not saying, what the diet exactly was, but they use things for stuff, and there's going to be guts and blood around in some places, And I just think that the Romans they ate animals. But it's just the style of it, the whole forest style. I just think that they ended up kind of like characterising it, it's and all this sacrifice stuff. If you love an animal, right, and you've had a donkey or a horse or even a pig for a long time, and you're gonna have to eat it, yeah, rather than just jump on it and start stabbing it to death, the whole thing of what is the word ritual? You end up kind of like, if your children like it, you have to say bye-bye to it, and then you end up, doing it in more of a civilised way. And now we've got all these bolt guns and stuff like that, so you sneak up behind it and then just go poof, surprise it with a bolt gun or whatever, back at head, surprise, surprise, doof. They call that civilised now, when stringing it up in an abattoir. But, there's a certain ritualistic way of, leading the animal out, and then, maybe they might have put cloth over its head and all. This what is a ritual? It's a set of practices and circumstances. I just don't think some people have the imagination, and I don't think that the Mediterranean people had the imagination, to be honest. I don't think they quite understood, and I think there was a lot of exaggeration going on. They're the only ones who end up writing stuff down. You've just got to know your own people and yourselves and your own, who am I and what am I like and what was I like as a kid, and that's who we are as people, and I don't know how the Romans could say that about us, it's just, I know what we're like, and to be honest, this is what upsets me, is I have travelled all around the whole of England most of my life, right, and it's been very, very friendly, but I've always known West Yorkshire to be very, very warm and loving and caring when you greet people. And now we've just lost that. It's just killed it. I've been walking past people now and they're so miserable because of the pandemic and all this and that. And it's Facebook. Oh, if you don't like this or that, just block, 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 block. Mark Zuckerberg. It's this really American attitude of meant to be, I don't know if it's originating from California or what, but we didn't need changing or anything doing. We were happy. We were, very friendly in West Yorkshire. And now we've lost that. And now when you go on Facebook groups, all people, are just complaining and moaning all the time, a lot of things. It never used to be like that. Not in person. I don't really understand. Well, I do understand, but I don't know why Zuckerberg is doing it. And all the police, if this don't feel right, that don't feel right. I don't know where they've been for the last 30 years. This is West Yorkshire. They're making out as if we've got serious problems. The reason is it's actually been, some things have been getting worse, and I'm not going to lie, it's because of immigration reasons. And why isn't they saying half the crime? So they say, in the name of progress. We've been progressing in technology at the same time, right? We've been making a regression in community. And that is why they're having problems and they won't admit it. They won't admit it. I think it was really friendly in West Yorkshire. Very, very, very friendly, right? we've actually had a remission. We're going backwards in community because we're being open and accepting to other cultures and letting them in, but we're taking a knock back for it. And this is what they do. Oh, well, don't be racist, don't be racist. But the crime's going up. They're not as openly friendly as we were in the 1930s and as we traditionally have been. But, the regeneration, redevelopment of town centre, the technology. Yes, they've been getting people have been making devices and machines which have been advancing and progressing, but they just won't accept it. And apparently, if you say it's racist, we've taken a big knockback in community, because if we hadn't, then why is it that we've got more and more problems? And the more and more open we are to accepting these cultures, it's them who are complaining, oh, can't say this, can't do that, can't do this, can't do that. What countries are they coming from? They're the ones who have been at war with each other for the last God knows how long, since the Persians. They're bringing with them their own inherent, can't put up with this or that. And then Zuckerberg's wanting to implement it into Facebook when we were more understanding of what we're saying and unhappy, and now apparently there's something wrong with that. But that's part of being liberal, And what they're saying now is, if the sun doesn't shine out of your mouth. But that's not being enlightened and liberal. That's been this new woke thing, which is you've got to, be this perfect machine that, is conforming to Zuckerberg's idea of whatever. I don't think Zuckerberg actually knows what the true idea of being liberal is, even though he's meant to be a roller or been rolling half his life, at nightclubs or whatever. And I think it's the office consensus of these. They say that if you work at Google or Facebook or whatever, or even if you work in any company in London, you're being employed and you will behave how you're being told by the management. And it says they get these consciousnesses, and it's the consciousness. And then what these companies do is when they're running the social media and everything else, you have to conform to that, what that consciousness is. And that consciousness is Thai, chief executive, office staff, boss, rank. It's a rank and file system. And really, we've now got social bosses. They've implemented social bosses through media now. In Facebook groups are enjoying social bossing. And to be honest, I actually think that there are some places where it's actually really, really good. There are some Huddersfield groups that are actually really, really good and very, very laid back. And obviously, unless you'd be really, really stupid. But there are some that are just kind of ridiculous now. But then you get to see the characters. There are some Jimmy Savile type characters, who are actually getting a kick and a thrill out of throwing the authority around, And I think there's a big gap in Facebook's management, and he's failed to identify that. I think Facebook have got serious issues where they're pretending, they reckon they're going to be doing good in the world, but it's not. We've ended up falling under a regime, really. And this is what Russell Brand's on about, Russell Brand's getting very, very popular now with free speech, and against this. It is a corporate takeover. There's no doubt about it. I can see what it is. It's the Tories want to be your boss at work and your boss at home, with the corporate things in your house, because a lot of things are free, so that gives them a free ticket. Never invite a vampire into your house, never invite a Tory onto your free device, because they'll end up taking your soul off you with all the adverts, and influencer stuff, and then they can get the word through the television. I think that it's to do with it's to do with greed and material things, really, and that's Labour's downfall, because they were making all the Tory stuff for them, and they wanted a bigger slice of the pie. They wanted 50-50 split on the work they were doing, when all along they should have been going, well, should we really be making this crap? Do you know what I mean? But they were sold on it. It's being sold on material things, you know? There's nothing wrong with things, but it comes down to obsession with it, you know? Gadgets and stuff, and it's not the Tory endgame. I don't think is love and understanding and care, because they want you to, you know, not say this and not say that and this and that. You know, the whole point in different people is different characters and different attitudes and mixed. I mean, who wants, you know, a Facebook group full of clones? Because ultimately that's what it seems like the end game is. You might as well just have, you might as well just start a group with, you know, those spam, you know, robots. You know, you might as well just have a group with, you know, 20,000 computer members who aren't even real, like, you know, bots who just, you know, like say the right things and keep you happy all the time. You know, go give me some photos of Castle Hill, right? You might as well have bots that just go out, you know, drones that fly around and take photos of Castle Hill and come back and then post them in the group and, you know, just say nice things to you. You know, that's not human, is it? It's not individuals with a character and a personality, with a point of view and an opinion. You know, it's just kind of cloning. And I think Mark Zuckerberg really, that's what he's aiming for. His end game in this virtual world is, you know, almost like the Nexus, like in Star Trek. You know, what Jean-Luc Picard ends up in this Nexus where everything's perfect. You know, there's no wrong with trying to get things going all right, but the thing is, things weren't too bad. There's having everything in an ideal dream perfect world, and then there's just like a normal world where, you know, it's all right and not bad. But at the moment where the Tories are taking us, it's going downhill, because everything around us, the Tories are dominating and conquering, and we're not even allowed to have a say in it to what they're doing. And then if you don't buy their things, passport and driving license, then you can't even vote. I don't really know what the Tories, I think that they've psychologically lost it. I think that they're psychopaths. I think the Tories now they're on drugs that we don't even know what drugs they're on, because their science labs and developers have got all these drugs that they can keep them happy and make them confident, and they can even block out of the mind any person who's obstructing them or against them. They don't have to talk to them, like Bernie McGuinn, just block them out, you know. They want to rule and conquer, and they've got the drugs from all the latest scientists who can take that just make it so they're happy about it. And, you know, that unfortunately is, I think, the Tories' endgame, you know. I'm all right, Jack. And that's what they were saying on Series 30 in Doctor Who. They were saying, you know, we're being hijacked. We are being hijacked. They're making out that they're lifting us up, you know, stepping everyone up the ladder, but in the process of getting, you know, all the Labour voters to believe that they're being elevated up in the world, they're giving away the freedom and the rights, you know, and just end up, you know, it's not. I don't think that it's not legitimate. It's not genuine, is it? It's like a donut. Donut is not a genuine food. It is crystallized sugar. It is non-nutritional, and it is not healthy for a human to eat it, but you like it because it's got this sweet flavour to it, but what it really is not, it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing disguised as a good thing, right? And that's what the Tories are. The Tories are a very, very, very bad thing that is disguised or trying to come across as a good thing. And now they're just scrapping even, you know, they don't even need to look good because they're selling you their products. And as long as you like their products, you don't have to like their policies or what they're doing with the law or anything, you know. As long as they can keep you buying their things, they have got the money and power to do what they want. And they don't even have to, they're just scrapping now. They're just saying, oh no, we're taking away your rights. We're taking your rights to object. We're taking your rights to protest, We don't even have to pretend to be good anymore. Well, in fact, you know that we're downright liars and criminals. You know that we are criminals and liars, but, you like us buying the stuff, so, and you're addicted to sweets. You can't stop eating the sweets, and we're putting the adverts out, and we're even getting you to chant, we love sweets, we love sweets. But they're not chanting, we love the Tories. That's the thing. They've got everyone hooked on their material products and things, wanting their houses, wanting to, have their products, but everyone knows they're lying, cheating, they're not legitimate. But people are just kind of in the daydream of, you just can't stop picking the stuff up and eating it. It's terrible. It's almost like being stuck in the poppy field, trapped in the poppy field, which that is literally what the problem is, isn't it? That is where it started from, that camp. And that, I think that is a problem of the entire Roman Empire and everything, really. They've got everyone. You're going to be what? Better off trapped in the donut field than in the poppy field. You might as well be sat in the poppy field, right? Then, you might as well be sat in the fucking donut shop or the ice cream shop, There's no difference in it. And they've made it illegal, heroin. It's meant to be illegal. And the thing that actually gets people to understand what's going on and the imagination and enhances the vision and capacity to understand that and, people to reflect on their own behaviour is they've made that illegal as well. Psilocybin, and the Liberty Caps and the psychedelics, because the Tories don't want to self-reflect. They don't want to look at themselves in the mirror and reflect on their own behaviour and say, oh yeah, I'm acting like an idiot, I shouldn't really do that, and my policies aren't very good. Tories don't want to do that, and that's the problem. That is the problem with it. I've been going an hour now, an hour and 1 minute. I didn't even want to have this massive conversation. I'm supposed to be doing a really quick review of this book. Maybe I can just edit this bit out. So we'll get onto these pages now. That's the wrong one. This one first. So, maybe I should just edit this out and start from scratch. 54, 53. A habit, whether good or bad, is more easily got than got rid of. At least, so runs the old proverb. How far this may hold good in our case, we do not know. But having by some means contracted the habit of devoting Saturday afternoon to a country stroll, we should feel a great reluctance to give it up. It's a portion of the week to which we look forward with unalloyed pleasure, when we can throw aside the heavy garb of care and flying from... That's the Tories, isn't it? When they can throw aside the heavy garb of care. Well, that is the sentence of sentences, isn't it? And flying from the busy hum of the crowded town. You'll be lucky when they're finished, because it'll all be town. Hold communion with the spirit of nature in her own domain. Such excursions are like bright cases in the desert, little spaces of time during which we can cast away from us all the dreamy intercourse of daily life, and be free as the air we breathe. Not in London, it's all smog. Availing ourselves them of another fine afternoon, we prepare to visit that interesting spot, Kirklees, by way of Kirkheaton. Our road is along Mould Green as far as the bottom of Almondbury Bank. Don't know which way he went. Sounds like he's going around the long way. Then Turning to the left, we follow the Wakefield Road to the Red House Junction, where we take the fields. Well, Red House Junction, I didn't know it was called Red House Junction. Does anyone know that that's called Red House Junction? Red House Junction? Kind of makes me think of the Red Brick Mill in Batley. They made a big deal out of regenerating Batley, and then they put this the Red Brick Mill, they called it, and it had all the latest stuff in it, all the habitat stuff and everything, all the fancy stuff. And you know, Batley's meant to be really working class factory place, but they got this really posh Red Brick Mill there, where all the posh people go to buy all the furniture and stuff. Red House Junction. Maybe that could be a reference to the old hill. As we go along, you will notice a very peculiar looking wood. You can't now because you can't hardly see it. Rising out of an extensive plain is a round hill of considerable height and nearly a quarter of a mile in diameter, the sides of which are extremely steep and covered with a dense wood up to the very summit. The top is quite bare of wood and under cultivation. From its peculiar form, this wood got the name of the Round Wood, though some people call it the Warrior's Tomb. There we go. Been looking for that. It's not actually written on the map. I think that Ian Digger Kilroy read this, and I think that he didn't actually see it on an actual map, and he's mistaken. I think that he's probably seen some maps, and he's probably read this, and I think that he got it mixed up in his head that he saw it on a map when he's read it in here. Various have been the surmises respecting its origin. In form, it most nearly resembles a tumulus, but then its immense size is against such an opinion, unless we suppose it to have been the burial place of the warriors slain in some great battle. This is not, after all, very unlikely, as there are records showing that a most fierce and bloody war raged in this neighbourhood by its prince Edwin in repelling the incursions of Ceadwall the Briton and Penda the Mercian. Well, there's been a lot more wars than that, let me tell you. A Roman invasion for one point, with a specific mission and objective that was explicit in intent to remove and eradicate the entire Druid order of the country, the religious order that was in administrative authority over the Celtic tribes. And as I recall in the Gaelic Wars, specific scene, supposedly when they actually got to the final battle of the Druid stronghold that they claimed was at Anglesey, when there were a couple of, there were some notable cairns and temples there, but it's not Maiden Castle, is it? So and they didn't come in through Maiden Castle either when they came in. So I think that was a bit of a, claiming that was a Druid stronghold. They didn't make it over to Ireland, did they, at that time? And so the Druids held their hands in the air and shouted, screamed at the gods, and as women in dress for battle flung around the ranks in a frenzy. And the warriors put their arms to the sky, and then the Romans made through the water, and they've actually been there quite a long time, many times, quite a number of times. Didn't go to those cairns though, because I didn't know where they were, because they weren't showing up on the internet at that time. I think somebody was rigged the internet up, so it didn't turn up when you typed in to search for them at the time. Yeah, so, there was some fierce fighting going on. And we know that let me just note, and they destroyed all their sacred groves and temples, for whatever that means, right? Oh, let me translate that. They made a certain, where they went out of the way, did these rather considerably large Roman forces to destroy things, namely things that were connected to the Druids, or might have been connected to the Druids and their ceremonies and rituals. Right. So, there's that. Not even getting to 1066 when De Lacy carves up Castle Hill, according to Varley, into 3 pieces and reshapes the entire hill into, the earthworks that it is now, if that is what happened. It could have been De Lacy, could have messed up, done something, he's moving earth around. He's reshaping something. Oh, look what else is in the area that might have been reshaped and had some earth moved around. Oh! Warrior's Tomb! De Lacy, earthworks, reshaping. Anything else that might have been reshaped at the time? Well, else that had done before, alright then, does anyone know about anyone who came over and had a specific interest in, let me see, destroying and, removing, sites, let's not say, whether, destroyed sacred groves. What do you mean sacred groves? What is a grove? A couple of trees. All you need to do to destroy a sacred grove will get a jet wash out. Apparently, if it was covered in blood or ritual sacrifice, you just jet wash them. Why do you need to rip the trees down? What have they done? Growing the trees like there's some of those fruits they grow, like square apples and oranges or whatever. What was so? Why did they destroyed the sacred groves? What were they? The stone? What do you mean? In the stones or the trees? Well, what were these trees so significant that they needed destroying? Why don't they just take down their mobiles? What they've got things hanging in the trees? I think that hill has been. I think that the Romans did something to it. I think that they dug it out because how many? I don't think that the Normans didn't necessarily have that many troops, did they? I think when the Normans came over, it was some sort of gradual sort of. They're saying it was more an administrative takeover, weren't they? There's meant to be. Wasn't there like when in the Roman conquest, wasn't there like a lot more. Didn't they have like army-wise? Didn't they have a lot more bodies than when after following 1066? Because it was Battle of Hastings, wasn't it? I think that I think it were Romans. I think the Romans dug it out because Cambodunum. The thing with Cambodunum and that camel, right, is that when you've got Latin word. Cam, and they decide to use that word to name an animal as well because it's got like a round shape on its back, a hump, and it carries water. The thing is, the Romans are saying, oh, well, it's just a fort by the bend in the river. Well, Huddersfield has got a bend in the river by near where Castle Hill is, but there's also that other mound. Now, the thing is, if you've got old oswestry or something like that, yeah, it's got all these shaped earthworks like Maiden Castle, but it doesn't look like a camel hump. The weird thing is that mound at Waterloo has ended up kind of looking like a hump, isn't it? Like a camel's hump. And usually it's the side. The thing with that site is this: right? It's not like Silbury Hill. Silbury Hill's round and it's man-made, and apparently it took longer to build than Stonehenge. But it's not a hill fort, so to say. But that mound at Waterloo is big. It's flat on the top for occupation and living on easily. And it's sort of kind of the size, it's too much like Old Oswestry. And when you look at it on the map, the direction of it, the alignment of it, it's just got like Old Oswestry written all over in it. And it's so near Old Oswestry on a scale of the island. It's not that far away. And the thing is, it could have been like holosophy quite easily, and it could have quite easily, if you're going to do, you wouldn't have been able to, if it was like holosophy, it would have been almost impossible to completely flatten it, right? But you could have, it would have been possible to make considerable impact on it and change the form of it, particularly smooth it over. And it's not that hard to do it if you wanted to. If you've got the ramparts aren't that hard to smooth over. I think that, and the fact that Morden is big den, I think it was not big as Maiden Castle, but steep. Maybe it didn't have ramparts. Maybe it was just really, really steep because that's the shape of it. I think they're unique. I think there's something different about our sites, because Castle Hill and Dunelm are like long barrow shape, and they're the right size, both similar size to each other, And the thing with Bridge House is like it is a bridge. It's long. Like I say, Bridge is a narrow but long form, It's an elongation, and that's what I think. I think the long barrows were called bridge houses, or there were quite a few terms like colour, and when you start looking into the words, there is some for like Morden and Marsden. It's like to be like crawling on the floor, and to get into some of those cairns, like on the Isle of Man, and they've always got a stone, and you've got to crouch to go into it. So it's like you got to crawl to get into it before you can stand back up again. It's Morden, big den. But also the word for riding and flying is around that terminology as well. Now, if you're going into somewhere to have visions, and you can go like flying literally and go in a vision, and you got colours like colour, and then you've got like there and obviously Brigantes is to project outwards, a projection, and also obviously you've got like projecting out on the walls of the inside of the chambers and stuff like that. There are a lot of interesting terms that I think are it's not coincidence, a lot of the terminology for it, and they just don't want to acknowledge it, either they don't know, or don't understand it, or they don't want to let on about it. And it's all to do with the religion. It's everything to do with that Druid order and the legacy from the prehistoric era, from whenever those sites were first constructed and built, all the way through, I think, until it finally got purposely eradicated, That's what I think. And the thing with Christianity is this: they don't have a engagement with a sacrament. It's all symbolic, and it's theoretical, and you were told what it is, and you are dictated to as a congregation, and it's all in the book, and it's not a practice, or it's not an engaging religion with an interactive element, which clearly, when you do get into a lot of these psychedelic things, what it is about spirituality, it's about the spirit of the human being, and it's about the soul of the person and what that is. To know what a soul is and what a spirit is, and what is spirit actively between humans, it is to engage with spirit and understand what spirit is and what being a human being is, with the Holy Spirit running through between the people. That's what it is. And understanding and knowing that, there's power in that, because you understand and know humans and how consciousness between humans works and operates. And I don't think that they wanted people to get into that, learn and talk about it anymore, and be baptized into that experience in the chapel, in the religious buildings that they got built and set up around the network of the islands of which that comes from. And I think they wanted to have only the religious leaders and the monarchies to have anything to do with that, and I think the Celtic people everyone had a stake in the religion, even if you say it was being controlled by the Druids and they were using the psychedelics as a way to educate but also control them. But now they're doing that with a telly. So what's the difference? It's a screen. It's got an illuminated surface on it, and there are pictures and visions on there. The only thing is that everything you see in that telly is controlled from broadcasting house. It's not conjured up from your own mind and you, or even when you've been put in a susceptible state to take on guidance from another person, whether that's a guide or a priest or whatever, and let him tell you what's what, and you absorb it in, even if he understands what exactly is going on with your consciousness. At least you have some perception and a little bit of hands-on experience with that. Now, it's almost like on that James Bond film with that Bond villain, the one where he's like Carver and he's got the old media army. Because that's now what we're dealing with, and I don't think the Archbishop of Canterbury really has the experience or knowledge to deal with it. Not in any context of what the 7 deadly sins claim to be purporting to be there to do, which is to lead us not into temptation and deliver us away from evil. They're riding us straight into evil head on, and we were sat there laughing. Archbishop of Canterbury might as well have a donut round his neck than that collar, as far as I'm concerned, because he wants to take the focus away. No, let's not concentrate on this problem. Let's concentrate on the charity in Africa and the foreign people, But, if we are world ranking in technological devices and psychology, then we need to be looking at the problems here, Archbishop. We've got serious issues. Another priests are even going on the newspaper and saying we've got problems. I won't go... If I knew, right, that I cannot control my own eating and my own addictions, and I'm having very, very hard difficulty managing to control myself because I'm being influenced by celebrities and television and companies at the moment, it's like being stuck in sinking quicksand and I can't really help myself. I am not in a responsible position enough to be going anywhere near Africa or any other country because I've got problems. There are problems around me. Now, if I go over to that country, I'm taking problems with me, just like when Christopher Columbus went over to South America and they all dropped dead from diseases, right? He wasn't in a responsible position, right? He didn't really know what we were doing. We've got issues. And never mind Africans and Chinese. Never mind, whatever you want, South Africans, Aboriginals, Chinese, Indian, Pakistani, whatever, right? We've got issues, right? We've even got issues with ourselves among white people about colours, and ethnicity, and even rich and poor to do with his heritage, where we're even attacking each other's heritage. And then they're bringing in scapegoats, to get other people to do the dirty work for them so it don't look like they're doing it. Get some, pin someone else to go and, build on there or do that so it don't look like that, it's the other party that's doing it. This is a problem. We need to acknowledge there are issues that we have got that we are denying exist. Like Boris. He's a liar. He's a flaming liar and a criminal man. He will not be prosecuted. Apparently he can't be prosecuted. John Bercow needs to be prosecuting him. Oh, he's been banned from Parliament. John Bercow hasn't been banned from the Supreme Court. You can't ban him from court because you've got the right to bring a legal case. This is the thing with Bercow. Bercow doesn't even get it. I don't think Bercow can be banned from Parliament by a court unless it is the Lords. This is the problem. Oh, well, you've got a couple of Lords in the Supreme Court. Yeah, but it's not Parliament. A court can't ban you from Parliament. Only Parliament can. Oh, well, it's a committee of a committee of a committee. Yeah, but you've got the right to petition the Manchester's government. You've got the right to petition Parliament, right? And then have it put through. And anything that gets voted on in Parliament has to go through the Lords anyway. So Bercow can't go into Parliament, but he's still got the right to petition Parliament. So, effectively, Bercow can get signatures from people, right, and bring a case to Parliament by petition. He's got the right to do that. They can't take that right away from him. So he might not be able to go in there, but he can petition for something to be changed in the government, and then it can go through the Lords. So he can't be banned from Parliament, can he? You can't ban Bercow from submitting something to Parliament because he's got the right to petition Parliament and you can't take it away. And what Bercow doesn't understand, I don't quite think the significance of it is, all commitments to do with that right are illegal, which means they can't make a new order that nullifies it or restricts or prohibits. And the thing is that Bercow, unfortunately, has been kind of backing up the other parties. But I don't think Bercow needs kind of like some sort of... I think Bercow has got the knowledge base of the proceedings and procedures, and he knows the people with it, but he just hasn't quite got that... he's just a little bit out of focus, I think, with the creativity involved in it and the ideology to understand a few things of what it really... But why does it mean that? He almost, you know... Which is the power, because, you know, it's almost like, you know... If Bercow truly believes that he's been banned from Parliament from life and there's nothing that he can do about it, he ain't got the power. He ain't got the power. But why? Because he can't see that they can't do that. Because how can you be banned from Parliament for life when it's the electors who elect you? And at the end of the day, right, look, right, if you're pursuant of referendum, right, you're pursuant of the public deciding something, not Parliament, right? Not ministers don't decide, not even the Lords. The Lords check it and they can reject it for amendments, but then once the amendments have been made, they can accept it, right? You can't... Look, right, I tell you what, right, if fucking John Bercow gets 3 million signatures, right, to say that he should be unbanned from Parliament, and people fucking sign it like they're signing Tony Blair's now, right, then people can decide to unblock him from Parliament, right, because we can have a referendum on it. There is nothing in this government that you cannot ask Parliament to do. I'm telling you now, in politics, and I don't think Bercow needs to see it. I don't think he can't see what it is. If Bercow beats those signatures for Tony Blair to get his nail taken off him, Bercow could get banned from Parliament lifted. But you can do it. There's nothing that you can't do in government. If you can do something, right, whatever any Parliament or any court or anything under what constitutes to Her Majesty's government, right? Is anything that can be done that in this country that can be done can be undone, except actually the right to do it. Then that's what the right to petition is. The right to submit a case for something to be done. And what they're trying to do is to say you can't have a case to submit something, so you can't bring a case. Now, this is the thing. They're saying that you can't petition about ministers or named people. But what he's bringing a case. You can't say you can't bring a case that mentions people. Because how can you ban... Look, right, if you're bringing a case for divorce, you're petitioning for divorce, right, you need to mention people who it concerns, right, and evidence who is getting divorced, right? You can't name them. Bollocks! Right, who is... Why are you getting divorced? Because there was an infidelity. With who? I can't name them. Bollocks! You've got to name them! There are only so many reasons you can get divorced. One of them is infidelity. They can't be named. Someone's been naughty. Can't name them. Bollocks! Burkow, right? I'm sick of Boris Johnson, right? He's full of bullshit. And he's been bullshitting you. That's the problem, Burkow. Right? And I'm telling you now, right? If he's not going to debate a petition that achieves the number of signatures that they say you've got to get, then you haven't got a right to petition them. Because the right guarantees that it will be proceeded with. If you've got the right to petition for a debate, then you've got the right to have it debated, Burkow. I don't think you understand what it means to have the right to have it debated. Because if ministers say they're not going to debate it, or they could just say they're not going to debate it when they fancy, Burkow, I don't think you understand that you no longer have the right to have it debated. You have the right to, for them to, say that, well, we'll do what we want, which is not. You don't have the right anymore. Burkow, right? I don't think you quite understand the principle, right? Why is the right created, right, so that it can be done, right? Once they say that they're not going to do it, it can't be done anymore, Burkow. They've undone it. When you've got a one-way road, right, and you've made it one way, right, someone doesn't have the legal right to come the other way down the road, Burkow, right? There is no right of way, Burkow, right? When you are going down a road which is, you can travel in that direction, yeah? Have you got the right to use that road or not, Burkow, right? When you drive around down the road, Burkow, right, you've got the right to use the road. Now, if Boris Johnson steps out into the middle of the road and says, right, you're not coming down this road anymore, we're not going to continue with this line of travel, then he's removed the right for you to use that road and go down it, Burkow, right? Where does it lead to? Your right to petition the government on a matter which he must be the right to have it debated, because why else would you be collecting the signatures? You're not collecting them for the laugh, particularly when you're spending all that money on it and you've got to collect one a minute in 6 months, which is not an easy feat, right? Why? When you travel down a road, you are going there to get somewhere, right? That's the point. Now, if Boris and Theresa May Mog step out in the middle of the road, even with a police uniform, and say, whoa, we're closing this road, right? You've no longer got... They have obstructed your right to... We're saying that you don't have the right to use this road anymore or travel down it. So they've stopped. They're claiming that they can intervene. They've taken away your right to use that road, Burkow, or they're claiming that they've got authority to remove your right to travel down that road, Burkow. That's what they're doing. They're removing the right to travel down it. So you can't use it anymore. The road's been shut. Effectively, it's been closed, Burkow, right? Either I can drive down that road all the way down to the end, or I can't, right? Now, we create the right. When you don't have the right to travel down that road in the opposite way, Burkow, you have no right to it. When you do, Burkow, you do have the right to it. Now, they don't. The whole point of that right to petition without any commitments, making a commitment, an order in law about the right. Because if they can take the right away or stand in the middle of the road to stop you, you no longer have the right anymore. The whole point in that right, so you have the right to do it, and all prosecutions against you, legal challenges for going down that road, or commitments, orders made are illegal. It's illegal for them to take away the right, Burkow. What are they doing? They're taking away the right for you to pursue it. To do it. And to do it is, why am I saving up to buy a pie so I can buy it and eat it, right? You've got the right to eat a pie pursuant. You're pursuing getting the matter looked at. It's getting it looked at. And looking at it is debating it. That's what debating it is. That's what it has to mean that. Or why go to the trouble to create a law to say you've got the right to do it? Why would you need to? It's not illegal. There's no law saying you can't do it. There's no law saying it's a crime to go down the road, right? There's no law saying it's illegal to go down that road, right? So you're walking up and down the road. Now, they might block you from going there and saying, well, it's not illegal, we're not going to prosecute you, but I'm just going to stop you from doing it, right? Fair enough. So it's open game either way, but you can't get prosecuted just going down the road. It's not a criminal offence, right? Do you understand that? If you've got the right to go down the road, right, the legal right to go down there without being prosecuted or a commitment made, why would go to that trouble with that? It's not creating a law to say it's illegal to go down there, which prevents you going down from there. Now, if there's even no law saying you can't go down there, it's a crime, but there's no special right to go down there, then you can go down there, but they might be able to stop you if they want, but otherwise, it's not off limits. Now, to say that there's a right to go down there, special right, and you can't have a commitment made against you for going down there, orders or decisions, and to obstruct it, and you can't be prosecuted, why would you do that? You've done it so people cannot stop you from doing it. But what are they doing? They're stopping you from doing it. So they're taking away the right. You can't take away the right, Burkow. That is the point. And at the end of the day, to be honest, you don't really need to be in Parliament to make an impact in there anyway. Because if you get enough number of signatures, you can take it above. I mean, it's 5% or whatever to get a referendum. All you need to do is get enough people. You need to get a big following, a big party. You need to get 3 million people, which is what Russell Brand's got. You know, he's got 5 million people. But Russell won't get him to sign because Russell doesn't believe in their system, even though now he's got enough people that can, Russell Brand could quite easily say, right, I've got 5 million followers, I'll sign this bit of paper to say we should make, psychedelics legal. And then we'll have a referendum over it. People might vote in favour of it. People might not, but it certainly would stir up some commotion. You could do that. Russell Brand could say, right, let's unban John Burkow from Parliament. He's got the power, but he don't want to use it. That's the thing. That's why everyone's jumped on Joe Rogan now. In fact, I said it, oh, wow, he's got 11 million followers. You could really make some impact with that. Why? Because he can override Tory power. Every single thing the Tories want to do, once you've got enough people to oppose them. Now, how can the Tories stop them is, use the media and tell people that they can't really do that, or they haven't got the power, or, use adverts. And it's publishing things to influence the electors. The electors who can sign things to say, well, we don't want to do this or that. And now councils are using advertising and media. The problem is, right, that we've got a serious law, which is the government aren't supposed to influence the electors. The council and the government aren't supposed to influence the electors. And they're influencing them like there's no tomorrow. And they're using their friends and the friends' friends and the business colleagues and all their even... Kirklees Council sponsor this, sponsor that, in partners with this and that. And they're all using massive influence and stuff. It's a crime for a reason. They're trying to get people to not oppose the Tories. They're trying to get people to not sign things and vote. That's the problem. And when you get celebrities who have actually now got the capacity to do something, even they don't want to do it because they don't even like that government enough to say, oh, well, it's, you know, we're not even going to use that system now that we've... It's almost like saying, now I've got the button, but I'm not going to push it because I don't believe in buttons. But that button can do what these movements are calling for, which is what Russell Brand's calling for, but you don't even want to do it. You know, if you plugged Russell Brand in to John Bercow, then you get fireworks. You get things happening. You know? But even Corbyn won't do anything. You know, he's just pumping out the odd video on Double Down News. There's something wrong with Extinction Rebellion. They've got the capacity to do stuff. They're all retards. They're stupid. I'm sick of it. They're retarded. They're right banging on about stuff, but they just won't do it. And I think that there's something going on behind the scenes with either, there's someone's tinkering with some connections so it doesn't all happen, you know. That's the problem.